One of the most common pitfalls with cycling is saddle discomfort. We're going to explore what causes saddle discomfort and why, and most importantly, how to get rid of it. The bicycle industry has been very good over the last few decades at medicating saddle discomfort with the sale of new saddles. If you've replaced your saddle recently and you're still getting the same discomfort, as likely as not, it ain't the saddle. What? There are many things that will cause saddle discomfort. The single most common is excessive saddle height. The main reason for this is it tends to promote one or both of two things. Either there's a gravitation to the nose of the saddle. Consider this, the nose of the saddle is closer to the cranks and the pedals than the tail of the saddle is, or a rider listing to one side. Very commonly we see riders who are experiencing saddle discomfort, usually on the left-hand side, on the grounds that most people are right side dominant. It's very uncommon for somebody to sit centrally and overextend both of their legs, so most right side dominant individuals tend to sit off the right-hand side. Cue saddle discomfort, usually saddle sores on the left-hand side, usually it'll be accompanied by knee pain in the left knee and a numb right foot. What we want to be doing is basing your saddle height on a rider's ability to sit at the back of the saddle. If you're sat on the nose, that's a big problem. I don't care what you see in the Tour de France or the Giro d'Italia, it's problematic. Furthermore, you probably aren't riding the Tour de France nor the Giro d'Italia. The second consideration is excessive reach. In a similar approach to the saddle height issue, if the reach is too long to the handlebars, many riders will gravitate to the nose as a means of reducing the reach. So again, consider this, nose of the saddle is closer to the hoods or to the handlebar than the tail of the saddle is. So again, when optimizing saddle height and reach, we want to be doing it based on the rider's ability to sit at the back of the widest, most supported part of the saddle. One parameter almost never considered in the bike fitting environment is stance, how far apart the rider's feet are. Now, over the last few decades, bicycles have become increasingly narrower to enable 20-year-old, 60-kilo athletes to pedal through corners in a race scenario. On the grounds that if the feet are closer together, as the bike is tilted over and you're pedaling through the corner, you've got more ground clearance. That's true. The problem is that 99% of us don't need to do this, and what we find ourselves doing is having to increase stance to mitigate this. We might remember, some of you might remember the triple chain set. Well, we did away with that because of the added complication, but also it enabled us to get the feet close together. So what we find ourselves having to do in a bike fit scenario these days is increasing stance, so how far apart your feet are, using a number of methods. At the cleat, we can move it by up to 5mm. Using pedal washers, we can add an additional 2 per side, or even with a long axle pedal system. To that end, our best selling pedal system at a ratio of 100:1 is the Shimano SPD SLE long axle pedal system. We've come to find that this has massive ramifications in a rider's saddle interaction. Check this out. This is a pressure map result from a bike fit we did recently, and these two results are pretty much exactly the same position. The only difference is this is a suboptimal stance width and this is an optimal stance width. What we're looking for in these images is for a reasonable balance of pressure from left to right. You can see in this particular image that there is twice as much pressure going to the right side of the saddle as there is on the left, and in this one we've got more or less the same. It's about a 10% difference, which in my opinion is an acceptable amount. So this is what I'm getting at. The asymmetric interaction between the rider and their saddle is one of the primary causes of pain and discomfort. And we've come to find stance width can go a very, very long way towards improving that. It could be as simple as you've just got the wrong saddle. So, sorry to call you out physique. These, you don't really see a great deal of these anymore. Problem with these is that they're very long, they're very flat, they have no real pressure relief channel. One of the benefits of these though is it does allow a rider to sit suboptimally on it with a reasonable degree of comfort because it's very long, it's got a wide flat nose. You can sit on the nose of it even if your position's dog and not have a huge amount of discomfort. Saddle like this Salitalia here, which has got a very large pressure relief channel cut out of it, if you sit asymmetrically on that, it's going to cut you to ribbons. Generally speaking, saddles like this tend to promote some sort of asymmetry on the grounds that human beings, depending on your religious beliefs, were intended to run, jump and climb trees. We weren't intended to sit on our genitals on hard pieces of foam. So what we tend to find is that riders will either sit off to one side or they'll sit rotated or askew as a means of trying to get comfortable. This is why I'm a very firm believer in 99% of cases that your saddle has some form of pressure relief channel. We weren't intended to sit on bicycles and put our feet into stiff carbon shoes and move our feet in circles. One of the problems associated with putting your foot into a cycling shoe, or any shoe for that matter, is that it typically switches off the proprioceptive feedback of the foot. This is conducive to destabilising the knees, the hips and the pelvis. To that end, we have found that we can reduce pressure going through the saddle by up to 50% just by administering arch support. Every single person that leaves our fit studios leaves with generally this fantastic G8 2620. This is an Australian modular orthotic, which we usually have to modify, but this is a highly customizable arch support, which is movable, but very, very effective at helping re-establish that connection between rider's brain and their feet. And in turn, as a result, you end up with a better saddle interaction. We've been able to back this up, again, with pressure mapping. So those are some of the main contributors to saddle discomfort. There are many, many others, including but not limited to excessive setback, excessive crank length, excessive handlebar drop. But to be honest with you, what we usually find ourselves doing is changing lots of aspects of the rider's position all at once. For instance, some of you might go out and they go, oh, if my saddle's too high, I'm going to lower it. Well, the problem is when we lower riders' saddle height, we usually do it in conjunction with changing the shoes, changing their cleat location, increasing the stance, reducing the crank length, reducing the setback, reducing the handlebar drop, reducing the reach. All of these things all at once within a 3-hour session. Going out and changing one aspect of your position in isolation usually doesn't yield results. Again, this is why we recommend you come for a bike fit. Fit first, buy later, be more informed about your purchasing decisions, and generally puts you on a road to a greater enjoyment of the sport. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more bike fit content on this channel. Hope to see you again soon.